Have you ever wondered why your marathon time isn't as fast as you think it should? A lot of runners look at those pace calculators and they plug in their 10K time, their half marathon PR, or even their 5K PR, and it spits out a marathon time that's substantially faster than what they're capable of, what they've actually run in a race. And I know for me, this is true as well. If I put in my mile PR, even my half marathon PR, and really any single one of my PRs, you'll find that my marathon time is way slower than the actual prediction of those calculators. So what's going on here? Why is this phenomenon happening? That's what I want to talk about in this video so that you can think a little bit more long-term about your marathon training and your marathon goals, and also what you can do in the meantime if you're not quite there yet. Your marathon time is not as fast as you think it should be because the marathon is long enough to be a great endurance test, but also short enough that you can actually run it fairly fast. And that means it takes a lot of training to get good at the marathon. If you want to be a fast marathoner, it is going to take a very long time to build the physical skills necessary to be good at the marathon. Now, we can't say that about the 5K. We can't say that about the 10K. These races are much more accessible. They are approachable even to someone who's just starting to run. You can go and run a 5K within a week or so of starting to run for most people. We can't do that with a marathon. And therein lies the problem. That is the actual problem and the solution to this issue. Your marathon isn't as fast as you'd like it to be because it requires more of you. It requires a hell of a lot more endurance than shorter races. And what do we know about endurance? It takes a while to build. You can get fast in a couple weeks. Building speed is actually fairly straightforward. But if you want to extend that speed, if you want to actually hold on to a fast pace for a lengthy period of time, that's endurance. And building those skills takes a lot longer than we think. There was a great quote by Coach Greg McMillan talking about what runners can expect when they come to his elite training group. And he said, look, once you graduate college, come to my group, we're gonna train for 2 years, and only then will you be able to glimpse your potential. What he's really saying is that running is a long-term sport. And even for those runners who did extraordinary training and racing for 4 years of their collegiate career, once they go to that elite group, they're still going to need another 2 years of development before you can even really begin to know what your potential might be able to be. So what does that tell us? That tells us that even for high-level athletes who are training a lot throughout their college years, it's going to take even more years of hard training to be able to see what they're truly capable of. And so for us recreational marathoners, us people who are not most likely training through college, us adult runners who are not training with Greg McMillan in his elite training group, this means that it's going to take years and years and years of aerobic development before we can ever truly see what we might be able to do in the marathon. And so that's why it takes a long time to get good at the marathon. That's why it takes a lot of high mileage weeks and months and years and a lot of time doing those long runs.
You know, I'm not that big into supplements, but I do love AG1 by Athletic Greens. I consider it my nutrition insurance, helping me cover all my bases so I know I'm not missing out on anything my body needs, especially when I'm training really hard. I try to eat really well, but of course, AG1 is that extra security that gives me peace of mind over my diet. 1 scoop per day, and I'm getting 75 vitamins and minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, antioxidants, and adaptogens. You can try it out too at athleticgreens.com/Jason, and they're going to throw in a free year's worth supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. Check it out at athleticgreens.com/Jason.
Now, I remember when I ran my first marathon, it was the 2008 New York City Marathon, and I had high hopes, high dreams. It didn't actually go very well for me, but I did end up running 2:44 for my first marathon. And I remember at the time a lot of people asking me, how did you run 2:44 for your first marathon? Isn't your first marathon supposed to be a race that, you're just trying to finish? You're just trying to enjoy the experience. Well, one of the reasons why I was able to run 2:44 in my first marathon ever is because I was ready for the distance, because I had been running 15 or more miles for my long run for years and years and years before I ever even started marathon training. And that is why I was able to run probably a little bit faster than a lot of other runners who are going out for their first go at 26.2 miles. The years of aerobic development through those long runs is why I was able to start my training running about 16, 17 miles for my long run. That was a very comfortable effort for me. I was used to running about 2 hours for a long run every single week. And then when I started marathon training, I just had to run a little bit longer. I had to incorporate more marathon pace running into those long runs, and it worked out quite well, despite me not running quite as fast as I was hoping to. And so the lesson here is that even if you're not training for a marathon, if you have future marathon goals, now is the time to get in a good long run. It's not only going to help your future marathon aspirations, but it's also going to help whatever you're training for right now. I think it's very instructive that some of the best milers in the world still run 15, 16, 17 plus miles for their long run. These are people training for the 1500 or the mile race, and they are still benefiting from all the endurance we get from a regular long run. So even if you're training for a half marathon, a 10K or a 5K, let's focus on getting in a solid double-digit long run. It's going to continue developing that aerobic metabolism, and it's going to set you up for success for any future marathons that you'd like to run. Now, this is the long-term version of a problem, and there's also a short-term version of this same problem. The short-term version is marathoners who rush their marathon training. So they're 12 weeks out from the race, they're comfortable doing a 10-mile long run, and that means they have to rapidly increase the distance of their long run before their marathon. And that's not only an injury risk, but it doesn't give them a lot of time doing those longer long runs. They have less time to actually benefit from those long runs and less time to adapt to those long runs. Now, if you are a runner who is comfortable running a high long run already, you are not going to have to rush your training. Just like if you are someone who's been running relatively high mileage and a solid double-digit long run for years, you're someone who doesn't have to rush your marathon training, and that means you're just going to have a better marathon. You've been patiently building that aerobic metabolism and your endurance and the distances that you're capable of for a very long time. That means you're going to be stronger. It means you're going to have more endurance. And whether or not you're running your first marathon or your 10th marathon, you're going to have a better performance. So I am yet again urging runners to appreciate the difficulty of the marathon. Let's respect how hard the marathon can be. And if we train appropriately for it, if we're truly ready to tackle the training when it's time to start preparing for 26.2 miles, we are going to be better for it. And I think we're all going to be faster for it as well.